This is blockchain activism. Brittany Kaiser and Trent Poole here. So I'd love to hear, first of all, some of your backgrounds. You guys, like, tell me about how you arrived here. Like, even meeting Nick and all this, everybody has a Nick story. It's like, oh, the guy was yelling on stage one time. He came down, he pointed at me. I felt really motivated. Then there's other people that are like, oh, we were at a political campaign and the guy was brainwashing us. And there's all this other crazy stuff that goes on with the Nick Spanos crew. So let's start with Trent, and then Brittany. We can move on to you. I'd love to hear, Trent, some insight, about your background. What you do. It's a big mystery to me. So like, this is a area I'm unfamiliar with, but I do have some good questions, I think, for most people that are uninformed as myself. And I'd love to hear it.
Thanks, Adam. Hey, Brittany, how's it going?
What's up? Good to see you guys. Thanks for having us, Adam.
Absolutely. Thank you for coming. I heard it was a little last minute. Wait, let me put the Brock Beer hoodie on here. I got it over here for you guys.
Trent and I will push things out of the way for Mr. Spanos, of course.
Nana, for everything you guys are doing. My name is Trent Poole. I am a activist turned consultant. I don't really consider myself a consultant, but I actually consider myself an anti-consultant because we're always fighting against the well-funded, well-heeled political establishment and everything we do pretty much. And I was an early Ron Paul supporter. That's where I met Nick Spanos. Kind of followed in love with the, honest, audit the Fed, stop the wars, and kind of that libertarian view towards worldview towards government and politics, and loving thy neighbor, and kind of treating others like you want to be treated. And that led me to my activism, and soon enough I started a political consulting company and got involved in minor third parties, and that was early 2012, 2010, right after college. And we own a company now that basically gathers signatures and puts candidates on the ballot and runs campaigns, and we try to win as many of them as we can. Obviously, we don't have the resources they always do, but we tend to have a pretty good shot and prevail. And it's been a crazy 8 years, but we've been able to work for some awesome people. Going back to third parties, we got to work for Gary and Jill Stein, and a lot of independents. We've gotten to work for Ted Cruz, Rand Paul. This cycle, we were working for Tulsi Gabbard. We were working with Brittany on the Brock Pierce campaign. And we've had a lot of fun and tremendous success. We've had a lot of failures, but we've also had a lot of great successes in seeing that with enough, activism and engagement, laws do change. And Brittany will speak to that really quickly on some of the amazing things that they've been able to accomplish just by educating and informing and standing up against people that honestly sometimes don't know what they're doing. And we'll get into that more, but that's a little bit about me, and thank you guys for having us.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for coming on, Trent. And just to touch on that real quick, I think that's always been my stance, or my positive outlook on humanity, is that people are just ignorant to what they're doing a lot of times, and they may be presented with a situation, there may be an incentive behind it, whatever it might be, and they decide to do something that is not in the nation's best interest in a lot of capacities. I think blockchain really falls under one of these things, where we see money moving overseas crazy, and stifling tech and all this stuff. So there's real impacts behind what you guys do, and I'm well aware of it because I experience it firsthand. Every time I say, can I do this or can I do that, it's Nick's like, what do you want to go to jail? Like, blah, 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 like screaming at me. I'm like, I just had an idea. He's like, don't even think that way. And I'm like, okay, all right, I won't think that way. Brittany, I believe it was you that was in the great hack in 2019. Was that what I was hearing? I wish I had seen it, in preparing for this, if I would have had time last night and, on our text chain, because I really wish I had seen it, but it is on the watch list with my girlfriend. We're going to go through that next, I think, but I heard it's incredible.
It's easier to see it after you've met me.
Okay. Great. Yes. So give me a little, give me a little background, Brittany. Tell me what's been going on in your world, and kind of your background, and how you ended up here.
Absolutely. Well, like similar to Trent, I feel like for most of my life, I've been in politics. And, I know that lobbying sounds like a dirty word, but I've never been paid to lobby in my entire life, but I've been lobbying since I was a teenager. So I represent my own interests. And so ever since I was old enough to, I suppose, attend a political rally, I think the first one I went to was when I was 14 years old. I got involved in campaigns, started volunteering and interning for local politicians, for U.S. presidential campaigns, and then I ended up going to college abroad and spending a lot of time in British Parliament and European Parliament at the United Nations in Geneva. And I would go and advocate for the laws that I wanted to see changed as a college student and just show up. I started interning for different human rights organizations or different NGOs that had voting rights and just got really into the legislative process. I was training as a human rights lawyer. So both kind of the writing of laws and the process to pass them by talking to the people that get to vote and explaining to them why you want to pass these laws and why it is so important for a particular industry or bad actors to be regulated was something that I've always been really passionate about. Now, I suppose what I'm better known for is the fact that I'm, the only person that worked, at kind of like a headquarters level for both Obama and Trump. It might sound confusing to most people, but I eventually ended up becoming a professional political consultant. And, I also at the same time have been like really into the blockchain space from an early age. I had my first Bitcoins in 2011. And although I was an Obama girl, I, spent a lot of time following Ron Paul at that time while living abroad and doing a lot of human rights work. And so when I came back to the United States, mostly to work on US political campaigns in the 2016 cycle, I started to see how, divided politics had become, not just in terms of Republicans, Democrats, but in terms of people in Congress not really being able to do things that were good for the people, not being able to actually work properly with experts in order to pass laws that could have, saved lives, that could have boosted the economy, that could have driven innovation. And it drove me completely nuts to the point where I decided, I have to do everything in my power to try to fix these things. So for the past couple of years, I have dove in headfirst into working with legislators and bringing them the experts that they need in order to actually understand the laws that they're supposed to write and understand how that they can protect people from bad actors while still allowing American entrepreneurship and innovation. I think when I came back to the US, like around 2017, 2018, I didn't know any American friends that had a blockchain company in America. Like,
Wow.
I certainly didn't. I was consulting to companies that were in Switzerland and Estonia and Singapore. And to me, that was completely insane. The fact that this growing industry that was, where people are working with, tens of billions, hundreds of billions of dollars, that America was totally missing out on that because legislators had no idea what they were doing in writing laws that had to do with cutting edge technology they didn't understand. So right when I quit a company that you might have heard of called Cambridge Analytica, I flew to Wyoming for the first time when I heard that an amazing house rep called Tyler Lindholm and a very inspiring woman called Caitlin Long had been working together to create the first set of positive blockchain laws for the United States. And what I mean by positive laws were that the only law that existed in the US for blockchain at the time was the New York Bit license, which closed people out from doing business for blockchain, right? And so that's when I started to see that there was a huge opportunity for the United States to actually write laws that made sense so that Americans could build American companies, so that this industry that I found to be so incredibly important to the development of the world, to securing people's rights, to giving people self-sovereignty, ownership over their own assets and data, that we could make that possible in the US, when at the time when we started, it was impossible. So I flew to Wyoming in February 2018, when the first, Wyoming positive laws hit Congress. And, I would say these two laws at the time, one was an exemption to the Money Transmitters Act for Bitcoin. And the reason that this was being written, I mean, there were two different reasons. Representative Lindholm had already been trying to write this for a couple of years, but Caitlin Long was just trying to donate to her alma mater, the University of Wyoming, where she went for undergrad before Harvard. She was just trying to donate in Bitcoin to create a fund for female engineers. And it was illegal for her to do that, to make that donation. So she was specifically writing this law so that she could make this donation to start a fund for female engineers, right? And so this law exempting.
I thought that was right in line with everybody's wishes in the entire U.S. is that we want to fund, female engineers. There's a disparity. I mean, right. I hate to point it out, but like the reality is, look, when we go to hackathons and stuff, like I wish that we had more women engineers. They think of problems differently, honestly, from their life experience. I think the male aspect is very utilitarian, right? And like, how do I get this to function? And I think women really think about it from the opposite perspective. They're like, well, how is this going to impact the user? And this is a broad statement, but in my experience has been kind of a little bit different. But anyways, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt, but I thought it was I thought something that you should be able to do. Just turnkey, donate, let's get the money in there. Great. Not the case apparently, right?
Yeah, and so it was just so amazing that when she was like, no, I'm going to make this donation, but I have to change the law first. And so she did. And some of the other first laws that were written in Wyoming, which are, happened to be revolutionary but shouldn't have been, would be the differentiation between a security token and a utility token. So a bill that defined a utility token in law for the first time. Because for most of you listening to this, I think you probably realize what is still going on with the SEC in the United States, where they assume that most digital assets that are on a blockchain are specifically there for speculation, are there for investment, and are designed to increase in value, as opposed to some tokens that are literally just there to operate a network, right? And so defining a utility token in law was like such a huge thing. And for the first time challenged the SEC to say, you are taking away people's companies and making them give money back to investors, making them go bankrupt, making them look stupid, or forcing them to move abroad, just because you don't understand the technology. And that was really huge. I got together a group with the help of Brock Pierce of about 150 different blockchain experts from around the world who flew into Wyoming from Hong Kong, Singapore, Switzerland, all over the US to testify, to explain to the legislators exactly how all of this technology worked, so that they could understand why these laws were important, right? And that's how that utility token bill got through. And then what I still think is one of the most revolutionary pieces of legislation in the US is, for the first time, they defined your digital assets as your intangible personal property. So for the first time, giving digital assets, the asset class to which our blockchain tokens belong, property rights, which is huge. Because again, at this time, there was a flood of unsecure exchanges that were being hacked. And if you were hacked, you kind of didn't really have any rights to get your tokens back or to sue the perpetrator for damages. So for the first time, all of a sudden, you actually own your tokens, even though you can't see them or you can't touch them. And so that was pretty huge as well, because for those of you that don't know, property rights is the strongest type of legislation that we have, not just in the United States, but most places in the If someone damages or steals your property, you basically always win in court and can seek damages for that. So that's huge, to actually say that you have those types of ownership rights and go forward with that type of value. And that really started, a massive snowball of legislative momentum, not just in Wyoming, but around the world. After the first few laws were passed, everyone started watching what Wyoming was doing, trying to figure out, hey, is this going to mean that people can actually build blockchain businesses in America? And businesses started registering in Wyoming as opposed to Switzerland, Estonia, Lithuania, Singapore, whatever it happened to be. And then the momentum grew and grew. And
Wyoming made money. Wyoming made money. It's good.
Yeah. I mean, I would say there's been at minimum at least $10 billion that's come into Wyoming in the past 2 years alone. Obviously, most notably, Cardano and Kraken moving to Wyoming was the biggest deal, where both of them are multi-billion-dollar companies, but also hundreds of other blockchain and crypto companies that have moved there or established there in the first place as well, which is huge.
Yeah, I loved it.
Chain, Brittany, tell them about beef chain and the blockchain.
Yeah, proof of stake. I already know about it. One of my favorite things. I'm talking to Cardano. Yeah, you guys are hitting on a lot of topics. So there's a couple things I wanted to say. I want to know, for all of you who don't know beef chain, the proof of stake has to do with the cows, obviously. And Cardano, their biz dev guy, I forget his name. We've done a couple calls. I think we're going to be working with IOHK on a couple different things. They have a bunch of new stuff coming out. Mm-hmm. Really, really great people. I was trying to convince them for years. I was like, man, Haskell's not the thing. Like, nobody programs in that. Look, I'm not picking on them. I love Haskell. It's a great language. It's just hard to source Haskell developers. I'm not going to get too much into that. But you can ask Eric, our CTO, everybody else. Like, we know the space pretty well. That was interesting. But beef chain, proof of stake. If you guys want to talk about it, you're more than welcome to. I want to kind of keep it a little on topic, if possible, and pivot. But hey, look, I grew up in Buffalo, New York. It's in the shadow of New York City. Every law they ever passed was impractical. Nobody followed any of them. Nobody even cared. Some people didn't even register their vehicles. Everybody knew the cops. It's a small town. Like, you just drive around. I'm not saying I did this. I'm saying that I have friends that definitely did that. Nobody cared. We didn't have Uber. They had Uber. I don't understand how that works. But these implications transformed my very life in understanding regulations. My father was an attorney. He said it was kangaroo court 90% of the time, and like, it was ridiculous. So, I mean, these laws have very broad implications, and it's a lot more guilty until proven innocent in a lot of these matters. And you were talking about, with the SEC and these other organizations that have been given full license by our elected representatives. They have shunned off that power and handed them to people that they appoint, and they create policies and law that, that's the way it is. Nobody said anything about it. They just made a decision one day. I don't know how they make that decision. I don't really care what they say they made the decision. There's reasons for it. And I do believe in blockchain. There's a couple different powers. There's people that want to pull up the ladder that are from, your traditional finance backgrounds, and they see it as an opportunity. Look, there's this tech. We can pull up the ladder, keep everybody out. And you're going to have to put $500,000 up in collateral, have a perfect credit score rating, get 30 different background checks. I don't care if you were 16 and did something one time. Like, it doesn't matter. Like, it could be very minor, and it can hang up an application for a long time. So I'm in complete understanding with what you guys are saying here. The other thing that I would say is property rights. My dad used to have a T-shirt with a devil on it with a little fork, and it said, "Possession is 9/10 the law." And it was like, it's a real thing. Property rights in America are very important. I think what you both do is incredible. And I didn't mean to hijack off the beef chain. If you guys want to talk about it, you can. But I wanted to provide insight, in my personal experience and when I got into blockchain. As a matter of fact, I wouldn't even consider myself political. I take the opposite angle just to get in an argument. I'm like a contrarian more than I am a political guy, right? I think blockchain very much embodies my viewpoints. Is like, we have this technology, we can implement change, and there's good change and there's bad change. I try to be a part of the good change, right? And kind of pivoting, and because you had a floor for a minute there, let me just touch on one last topic. I don't think that people in blockchain, we work with people from a broad spectrum. And I mean, you could be completely leftist or completely rightist, somewhere in between, up, down, in between. There's people from all over here trying to affect change. And we all generally believe that the technology empowers individuals, creates a distributed infrastructure, and passes out this authority. And this is in contrast to a lot of things that we've built up over the last 200 years, all these financial regulations. It doesn't fit. People are trying to plug it in, and it's not the same thing, right? So, like, I can't necessarily, and I'm not going to speak too much because I'll start going on a rant. But the political side of it is, hats off to you. I'd never be able to do it. I'd start screaming at people. There's no chance in hell I would ever be diplomatic about it. I'm a very binary type of individual when it comes to this stuff. So I appreciate you, Brittany, and Trent. I would love to give you a floor for a second. I saw you posted up a draft of this bill from Caitlin Longing. God bless her, whatever. Thanks for all those wonderful efforts that she started up there in Wyoming and kicking this off. And I love this supporting the female developers. I think that's wonderful. But Trent, if you could talk about what you posted in here in the chat, and if you could put the link up, Justin, below so that people can find it or post it in the YouTube chat.
Yeah, sure, Adam. I was just talking something that Brittany was speaking on. So Brittany did basically the brunt of the work. She went out there and basically educated legislators in Wyoming on what they were trying to do or what they were attempting to do, which was regulate a whole industry. Or basically, they weren't really doing anything. This is a very interesting time in history. So beforehand, pretty much everything in the crypto realm had been kind of looked at in this, with a criminal framework or criminal mentality. I remember, they were saying anyone who held Bitcoin was a drug deal or working for the cartels, or, kind of that very negative connotation and implications around the people that really work in this space. And I think probably a good inflection point in the life cycle of cryptocurrency was around this time when Brittany and all of these people came to Wyoming and basically got these laws changed. And this link right here, I think I can share screen. Basically, if you guys want to click on this legal fuel, it'll take you to 13 of the, Brittany will talk more about this, but there's 19 now legislation passages that were codified in Wyoming that have basically opened up a whole industry and brought in billions of dollars to the economy. And I think $10 billion, Brittany mentioned, that's probably a conservative estimate. Certainly, Caitlin and others have said it could be as high as 20 billion.
Mm-hmm.
So, if you guys see this link, can y'all see my screen right now?
100%. I'm with you.
So you can see 2018 with HB 0019. That's the Transmitter Act Virtual Currency Exemption. And here's a descriptive summary. Some of the ones Brittany were talking about. Property taxation. There's one special purpose. This is a really interesting one. Brittany mentioned Kraken moved to Wyoming. There's also have a bank charter, and that's under HB 0074. So in Q1 of 2021, Kraken will have a fully licensed, they already have the charter, and they'll be banking in the state of Wyoming, fully reserved. So they won't be doing fractional reserve lending, but they'll basically be banking people. And that's really interesting. It'll be certainly interesting to watch one of the first crypto banks come to fruition. And I'll hop off. Anyone who wants to go to this link, please, it's in the comments. Go check it out. I think it'll be certainly really interesting to see. I'm going to turn off share screen now. It'll certainly be interesting to see what happens. I know they're talking about the gun industry and marijuana industries being unbankable. Well, I'm not saying that this is what's going to happen, but certainly in a 100% fully reserved banking scenario, which there aren't many of these banks, possibly they would run to institutions like that. I've heard that the banking industries, because marijuana industry is unbankable, they're turning towards cryptocurrency, and they'll actually round up every transaction. So we spend $24.90 on a bag of marijuana in California, they'll round to $25, and immediately go onto an exchange as soon as that transaction occurs and buy Litecoin with that money or another currency, so that they can basically have their money in some sort of you know, some banking, quasi banking systems, so that they don't have to have cash on cash on cash, which has obviously got its own risk factors associated with it, security costs and storage and a lot of other logistical nightmares. So it'll be interesting to see where this goes. Brittany has basically been a huge part of it, and I'm so happy to be on this panel and discuss it. One of the things I would like to see, and we're going to be certainly visiting this coming up in the next legislative sessions, is blockchain voting. I'm proud to have participated in the first vote ever going onto the blockchain under Nick Spanos and the Blockchain Center direction. We put the Libertarian Party of Texas on the Bitcoin blockchain and the Florin Coin blockchain, and that was in 2016. While we were also, I think they nominated Gary Johnson and John McAfee and a bunch of other awesome people, Austin Peterson, who used to work for Nick. They were all running in the same election. And we got to watch the first vote ever go on the blockchain. One thing that is super important now is, you know, as we kind of democratized our monetary policy with cryptocurrency, we should also be, especially at this, you know, crazy point in history, politically, socially, economically, and, you know, with COVID going on, is looking at other ways we can vote and other ways we can run our election infrastructure. And I think whether you support the president's current opposition and kind of dialogue and issues that are being raised with the current voting infrastructure, I think that any objective person fully analyzing it can definitely get the benefits of blockchain voting and democratizing the vote, because that's really what you're doing, and giving more access, more transparency, and you know, if there's ever something that an immutable ledger, while inefficient but very honest, could be used for, I would say government should be using it for voting. Right? Government's already inefficient and very dishonest to be, so why not? You gotta plug it in somewhere. And if there's a place that if blockchain is best used as a custodian for chain of custody and title and figuring out where these things belong and who actually owns them, well, shoot, you know, that's just it checks all the boxes. A vote needs all of those things. And I really hope that we're able to foment and encourage legislators across America this cycle with some of the things we're going to be doing to look at blockchain voting as an awesome opportunity for getting us back online with transparency and democratizing the vote. So
how does it work now? Like what you're just talking about.
How does the vote work, or how does blockchain vote work?
Yeah, how does like what did this look like in Wyoming? Like when you guys were able to execute in the election subsequently? Like this is a hot topic, right? So I mean, from my perspective, at least, I know you guys live it, but I'm just saying, like, this is news cycle. So like, what does that look like? How does that work as far as the blockchain voting, submitting ballots and everything? And like, what did it look like when you guys did it?
So when we did it for in the Libertarian Party convention in 2016, and this is using the patent that Nick Spanos and his Digital Asset Holdings Corp owns. He was the first vote ever, the first patent for voting on the blockchain. And my personal opinion, the best. I still love you, Nick. I believe 100% in what you're doing. And I know that everyone has a different view. I'm not a genius by any means. I try to be objective, and I weigh people with much bigger brains than I have and try to say, okay, that makes sense or doesn't. The thing I like most about Nick's patent, or what they're doing relative to what others are trying to do, is I'm a firm believer in keeping things off the internet. I think the internet is, very easy to hack. They're stealing data all the time. I mean, we just saw with the solar wind thing. I know there's still a lot of information. I'm yearning to find out more. It's from Austin, my hometown, where Brittany's at right now.
Nice.
The FBI and DOJ just raided this. Basically, they're an IT company that provides servers and backdoors to companies all around the world. 450 of the 500 Fortune 500 companies are using this. 5 of our defense sector, our intelligence branches are using SolarWinds. So they're a huge corporation. And when they get hacked, the implications of something like that are tremendous. And when systems in our election infrastructure use them, it's even more precarious and more dangerous. We're not supposed to have Texas. I can speak specifically to Texas, but pretty sure every state has the same policy. You're not supposed to have any election equipment ever connected to the internet. I think that's a good safety net. And so Nick's patent doesn't allow what would be like some other blockchain votings would be like a biometric ID, check your face, iris scan, fingerprint, and then you can vote online on an app. It's not necessarily what we're talking about. What it is a paper ballot that gets scanned immediately into just basically Fujitsu scanner, and then it pops out, and then immediately your selections got scanned, optical character recognized by the scanner, tallied digitally with the tabulator, and then the ballot would drop into a ballot box that's locked and only able to be accessed by the clerks and the AJs, the people with the clearance to do that. And that paper ballot sits there, and the paper count, if there was ever a challenge, would equal the same digital tally. And the third thing, so it's actually you got the paper ballot that's in the box, you have the digital tabulation, those should always equal one. And then you have what is the hash of the image onto the blockchain, and that will issue a character string or a number string, which would then be not able to be changed. If that document was altered, certainly if you took another hash scan another scan of the image, and the number changed, then you know fraud occurred. So it's actually got kind of triple factor authentication, a lot of checks and balances that I think are pretty amazing. Obviously, you could put a timestamp on there too, which Nick was doing, and a latitude, longitude, seconds coordination tally too, so you could see anomalies, and if someone was trying to stuff a bunch of ballots in over time, or you see a big surge, you could ping those irregularities.
I think we got Trent frozen there for a second, Brittany. So, Brittany,
you're back.
Okay, good.
It just got out. Last sentence.
We were talking about, sorry.
Yeah, so if you basically have all of these checks and balances, I think that you kind of have a foolproof working system. One of the other cool things that Nick did was he actually, I think he hashed a video of us doing the hand tally of the counts for the LP to make it the most secure election in the history of elections. And so that was really cool. So yeah,
I had to jump in here. Hold on a second.
Welcome, Mr. Spanos.
Yeah, so, all right.
So, yeah, there were many things that we did, of course. We also recorded the 2016 Iowa caucus on the Bitcoin blockchain.
Mm-hmm.
For when I worked for Rand, and we had 1,006. I think we had like 1,006 poll watchers.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what they call them in the caucus. Caucus watchers. Mm-hmm. And we recorded all those. All the results on the blockchain, on the Bitcoin blockchain, which it cost a little money, not what it would have cost today, of course. So the voting, I know I'm just jumped in. I'm sorry, guys.
No, we are honored by your presence.
Stop. So the voting, of course, the reason why, well, we do both. We do online and paper ballot voting, but the paper ballot's not going to go away because people have to believe that their vote counted. I mean, that's part of voting. If you don't believe your vote counted, you think you got robbed. I mean, usually any campaign that we ran for, like people that never got their hands dirty in politics, they always think they got like totally robbed. I mean, I'm not saying that about Trump. So there's always some kind of shenanigans going on, always. And the way I would say it is, the other side stole it fair and square. Because in politics,
they stole it fair and square.
Well, that's what happened, because it's true. And it's true. Because in politics, they're all doing something. Someone's doing something. that is not above board.
Correct.
Someone, not everybody. Some people do things that are not above board. And there's always both sides of trying to do something, trying to keep people from being able to vote.
Mhm.
You know, baskets of ballots that aren't real.
Mhm.
That's, you know, like the most horrendous thing. So they stole it fair and square. If Trump concentrated on getting a temporary restraining order on you know, mailing ballots to every single person, they've mailed 3 ballots like to one each person if they had 3 different addresses. And the Secretary of State data is so bad
Yeah.
that we always, you know, we buy data from Aristotle,
Mhm.
like we did this time, which is a pretty good data company. I used to sell it back in the 80s and 90s. I used to, you know, we used to augment it. Trent can talk on this. We appended with new phone numbers because the old voter data usually has like your first phone number. So it might have your mom's phone number of the house in there,
Yeah.
and you're 60 years old.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's what happens at the Secretary of State, because
You call
when
them,
else do you go?
They might say, "Oh, I have my daughter, but I have to give you her new number." So you're talking to Granny and you're looking for Brittany.
I know.
Sell right now.
I know.
Yeah.
I know. I checked my Secretary of State data. They think I still live at my parents' old house that we haven't had in about a decade in Chicago, Illinois.
Well, they mailed a ballot there. They mailed a ballot there for you.
Yeah.
Right.
They probably
Yeah.
voted twice.
So if you get a ballot mailed to you automatically, that's different than if you request an absentee ballot. So if they're mailing across the board to everyone, then people are going to get ballots. There's going to be ballots, you know, out the wazoo.
Yeah,
And,
just here in New York, everyone got their neighbor's ballot in a few different boroughs. So you got the one for the house next door to you or a few doors down from you, and there was not enough time to actually get a new one. So if you didn't want to leave your house because of COVID in order to vote, then you couldn't vote. And so now you guys, for everyone listening, you can tell why it's so important for us to actually be able to have blockchain voting, for us to be able to use cutting edge technologies to upgrade this antiquated system that is obviously quite broken, right? And that, you know, that's not the only thing that's broken. And now we're starting to get to see more kind of uphill battles that we're being presented with, that me and Trent and Nick were talking about on text this morning. So maybe Trent, you want to talk about like the issues we're seeing federally right now and why we're going to have a lot of work to do over the next couple months.
Yeah, perfect. That's a great segue. So blockchain voting is definitely one of the bigger pieces of the puzzle. I really hope that we can get some headway on that. And I'm sure Brittany's got a big portfolio. She'll talk to us about what she's planning in Nevada and some of the other states. And we can talk about Brock and some of the goals we have for states with passing the Wyoming laws. But one of the reasons we really need to start proactively engaging legislators, and I hope that everyone on this this chat today really considers reaching out to me or Brittany. I'll put my contact in here.
Mm-hmm.
You can put hers. If any of you guys want to get plugged in and talk to your legislators, your local state rep or state senator or city council members even too, and we really need to start educating them on the implications of what some of these things do. So there's the G8, or I guess it was the G20, now it's the G8 or G7. They have a I can't keep track anymore, but the G7 has a financial action task force called FATFA, and FATFA convenes every year, multiple times, and their goal is to basically keep a kind of regulatory, keep on the cutting edge of regulatory framework as an intergovernmental agency body. And what they did in June was they released, and I'll put a link in here, kind of some advisory opinions and goals for 2020. And one of them was to regulate VASP, which are virtual asset service providers like Coinbase, like Poloniex, like Gemini, anything you can get on, any exchange you can get on and basically purchase Bitcoin by connecting after you do your KYC, so they know who you are, your bank account, You can transact and purchase Bitcoin with dollars or whatever currency you're using in other countries as well, as long as you're complying with those governmental regulations for that entity. So in America, we'll speak specifically to America. These regulatory proposal came out over in June 2020. We saw them kind of hint at doing it, and what it was is to make VAFs implement KYC for their customers. So we already have KYC for their actual users, but their customers' customers. So KYC, know your customers' customers. And it's kind of it's really kind of sick when you think about what it does to the commerce and potential of Bitcoin, especially when cryptocurrencies are on such a tremendous upswing. But Mnuchin came out over the last couple of weeks saying he was going to do something with it. And thank God for Brittany and her works in Wyoming and everything they did, because now we have the first senator-elect, Cynthia Loomis, who is killing it. And she owns Bitcoin. Her son's a venture capitalist in the cryptocurrency space. It's going to be a tremendous boon to anything we do. But she actually tried to stop Mnuchin, and you can go onto her Twitter. We'll put that in here as well. And she basically was, tweet form up yesterday saying, "I met with him last week. Please do not implement this. This is ridiculous. We need to talk. We need to have. Don't make a regulatory rule change. Make a regulatory proposal." And fortunately, I think Loomis's comments really struck a nerve, because instead of issuing an opinion, he actually did do a regulatory change proposal. And the difference there is that instead of it just coming out in the middle of the night, hitting the industry, and us all having to adapt to it, we are now having an opportunity to give public comment. And so we need to put that link in here as well. So I'll do those 3 links when I get done talking. But please, anyone on here who feels inclined to participate in this discussion, public comments are lasting until January 4th at the Treasury Department. And we really need people to be involved and talk about what this will do and the lasting impacts. Basically, what their proposal will do is anyone who's trying to exchange from a wallet on a VAS to a private wallet where the private key or the cipher is owned by an individual or an entity, I guess. If you're trying to send more than $10,000, the value of the Bitcoin transaction or cryptocurrency transaction exceeds $10,000, you then need to basically take down that person's contact info and report that back to the VAS. So I hope that
that's gonna pass. So
I know Nick says it's gonna pass.
There's no way it's not gonna pass. It's gonna pass. It exists in banking. The only thing, we have to figure out, of course, we want to try to stop it, but it's gonna pass.
And so or Nick, maybe want to speak to this. I actually,
I said it. I said that we have to probably get Bitcoin declared a currency if they want us to abide by, because they have us all over the place. They have us as property at the IRS, where we have to do all these line item reporting and all this crazy stuff because we're property. Then they treat us like currency, and then you have FinCEN, and so what are we? Are we a currency? Are we property? What the heck are we? Everyone's gonna grab a piece of us. Oh, we're banking, but you gotta get a banking license. But you also gotta pay an accountant that doesn't know anything to figure out how to do every little trade. And if you go from one cryptocurrency to another, you have to pay. That doesn't happen with regular. It should be under, I think, currency laws. In this way, if they're because they're gonna treat it. Right now, there are laws in place that if you do a $10,000 transaction, you got to report it.
Right.
So
100%.
I don't even have to pass it.
Right.
I don't necessarily think that the law change would be bad. I think that hitting us in the middle of the night with a law change would have been horrible. And I appreciate the regulatory proposal aspect of what's happening and kind of easing into it, because I think the information's already out there. We know that this is going to come to fruition. It's just a matter of when, and really doing it so that it has the least impact and implications on innovation, and it's not prohibitive to any of the gains that have been made in the space. I will say too, like to that point, when regulatory clarity comes and occurs, certainly it's good for industry. And while Nick's mentioning, are we a currency? Are we property? What are we? Well, I think that this will probably help work out some of those kinks, and hopefully we'll be on the road to prosperity for a long, long time.
Absolutely. And you know, the reason why all of us care about this so much, the reason why everyone listening should care about this so much, is because we're not trying to legislate and regulate to make it harder to do business. We're trying to make it easier to do business. When you have clear rules that allow you to innovate, it means it's very unlikely your company is going to be taken away from you all of a sudden. Right now, because of the gray areas, because of the regulatory uncertainty, that's why some people still choose to hold their blockchain businesses abroad outside of the United States. And, you know, unless you're based in Wyoming, I can't blame you. I totally get it. So we have a lot of work coming up over the next couple months, especially. Just in case you guys didn't know, I know our friends at the Blockchain Center just shared the Wyoming committee meeting schedule. We meet many times a year. We're now a select committee on blockchain, financial technology, and digital innovation technology. I'm one of the appointed civilian members of the subcommittee on personal data definitions. I specifically work on digital identity, data trust, and defining personal data in law for the committee. And we just had our last session on Wednesday and Thursday, which was absolutely mind-blowing. We're presenting laws about the regulation of autonomous vehicles and the AI that runs on them. We're working on digital identity to make it illegal for someone to steal your digital identity, and defining some of the data points that actually make it up. We have created an LLC specifically for DAOs, so our decentralized autonomous organizations can be legal, which is really exciting. We are working on personal data trust licenses. So if a third party wants to be a custodian of your personal data assets, that we could actually have standards that they would abide by, and you wouldn't, like a traditional trust, give up ownership of your assets. You would retain ownership while that entity was there to help protect your assets and help you increase and monetize them. We have been working on a bill that makes it illegal for anyone in the government to compel you to disclose your private keys, which is really exciting. They can compel you to use your keys, but they can never compel you to give up your keys, which is really exciting. That'll be the next bill that we get through for sure. And we've also written an anti-SIM swapping law, which regulates telcos and makes them abide by a higher level of privacy, so that you know, most blockchain and cryptocurrency leaders don't continually get robbed. So there's a lot of fun stuff going on in Wyoming. So I do encourage you to check out that link that was shared. You can watch all of the videos of all of our testimonies. You can read all the bills. You can keep up to date, and you can request to submit written testimony or to testify live. Right now it's just on Zoom, so it's really easy to do from anywhere. If you have particular expertise on any of those topics, you can join from your house. So I really encourage people from anywhere, even if you've never been involved in Wyoming before, to get involved. But over the next couple of months, we have a lot of big things going on. For instance, unlike Wyoming, Nevada only meets for legislative session once every 2 years, and they're meeting in February. And there's a few really awesome legislators that want to pass some blockchain laws. So we're trying to get them the best legislative drafts that we can, so that they can introduce those in February, and hopefully we might be able to get something through, which is really exciting. So definitely watch this space. Definitely reach out to me whenever you'd like. If you want to testify, if you want to get involved in any type of way, and if you want to do the most light touch involvement, write to your legislator. It's really easy to find out who represents you if you don't know, and tell them how much you care about blockchain entrepreneurship, and that this industry is very important to you personally, and that you hope that they would you know, have a positive outlook on the industry and vote yes on any legislation that will help you keep your business where you live in America, right? So yeah, would love to do.
I remember during right after Ron Paul's first, not first, but the 07 race, 08 race, we helped pass his audit the Fed bill by chasing down every congressperson and yelling at them pretty much with a camera. And sounds crazy. Not yelling at them, but asking them, you know, what association do they have with the Federal Reserve that they don't want it audited?
Right.
What, is there something? Do they have some motivation to hide the inner workings of the Federal Reserve? I mean, where are they sending the money? No one knows where they're sending money, and things like that.
It's as simple as asking the question.
I wish we would have got the Senate on record, because I don't think it passed the Senate.
Yeah, that was Bernie Sanders screwed us over there.
Right.
Bernie Sanders led us to believe that we had him and someone else, and we didn't. He didn't vote on it, and then he created his own audit the Fed bill that had zero teeth, and I believe he sold out, 100% sold out.
Yeah.
And we had an incredible opportunity to actually audit the Fed and see what they're doing, especially now they got all this extra.
I heard Warren actually had
lithograms with notables on there.
Yeah, I heard that Elizabeth Warren was a big part of gutting it too. I heard, but also Brittany, we're waiting on final answer, but we should be working with Alaska, Idaho. I know you're in Texas right now. It's exciting because we know a lot of legislators there, and New Mexico, Nevada. And we're looking at a few other states to really proactively implement the things that Brittany and Tyler were able to accomplish in 2018 and beyond, looking at blockchain voting. So we got an ambitious set of days ahead of us. A lot of these legislators convene for the first time in early January, and some are biannual, so they will only meet for a few months. With COVID going on, it's certainly going to be very ambitious task to get blockchain legislation passed, but we're going to work our what's off to do it. And most importantly, we're going to educate people and hopefully bring a consensus, pun intended, of like-minded people to the table to figure out how to make the world better. And Brittany, I'll just correct me if I'm wrong, but you guys passed every bill in Wyoming unanimously. Isn't that correct?
Yeah, there were only a couple that had a few abstain votes. We didn't really get anyone voting against us. People would abstain if they didn't fully feel they understood the technology well enough.
Yeah.
But almost every bill was passed unanimously, which was mind-blowing. That has never happened in any legislative initiative, really, ever.
That's amazing. And that's just a testament to what we're doing. And once people do understand it, the power of this technology. So thank you guys so much for having me. I'm going to put my email and those links I promised in the chat. And yeah, thank you guys for having me.
I think everyone has to realize that when there's a pro-Bitcoin, pro-crypto candidate, you have to support them in any way you deem possible or can possibly support them, because they're pushing the agenda forward, and especially if they can explain it in the right way. Don't just give crypto to anybody who, they just say crypto because they think they're going to raise a lot of money, because they're going to do that to you also. You have to be able to discern whether this is an actual crypto person or not, and if they're the type of person that you would want representing and their voice to become a bully pulpit for crypto. So you have to help these people so they can not screw everything up, and give them money, and we can push this forward, because money is the only thing that talks on the Hill. The other politicians will follow suit right away if they see money's in it. We raised a bunch of money with money bombs, 4.3 on November 5th, 2007, and 6 million on December 6th, the anniversary of the Tea Party, which actually launched a Tea Party movement, which got taken over by some other crowd. But what happened was everyone, for the first time, started asking Ron Paul, how do you do that? How do you do it? How do you raise so much money without even having any fundraiser or anything? Why did everyone just send you money on a designated day? I mean, how do you do it? And he said, well, that's the first time these guys actually talked to me. Most of them didn't talk to me at all, because I wouldn't vote for anything that they had anyway. So he said, well, it's not me, it's the message. It's the message. So when you hear a candidate speaking your language, giving you the message, you have to support him. I know that you're hodling, but you're going to have 100% of nothing, and you're going to hodl into a hole if they outlaw everything. If they outlaw the crypto, and the reason why this crypto is going up is because it's getting adopted in the mainstream. And if we know that if they outlawed, you can still use it, but there's going to be only very few people that are going to still use it, and all these big outfits are going to stop using it. And that's why you have to support candidates, especially Brock, where he ran for president. He's probably, I don't want to say that he's probably going to run again, because that was his exploratory campaign. That was his exploratory committee. Most people have an exploratory committee with a bunch of people telling them what to, how they should hire them so they can, buy their services and stuff. But Brock is much smarter than that. So he threw an exploratory campaign for 3 months to figure out, what it's all like. And I think we made a big headway, especially, right now, you have this big Biden versus Trump stuff, but we realized many things. And I think when you have a candidate, you have to, even if you think, the guy has a whole bunch of money, why should I send him money? You have to send the money because the politicians want to see that money. Once that money shows up, they're going to think that they can get that money. So they're going to start pontificating and preaching positively on crypto, the way they all became libertarians after the money bomb. Before the money bomb, they were not libertarians. So it's the same thing here. We have to support our candidates, and we have to support the candidates that know their stuff. And we know that they're going to actually follow through, and they're not just trying to swipe everyone's Bitcoin. So the other candidates are going to try to, if they don't know anything about Bitcoin, they're going to try to use the word Bitcoin to be able to raise money. But we know the difference. So keep your eyes open and be ready to make your Bitcoin worth more by sending it to the right politician. Because when that number goes up, when the donations go up, other politicians take notice, and then they're going to say, crypto's great. And we wouldn't have all this crap over here with everyone coming after us. That's all I got to say. Sorry. I jumped in on this.
Yeah, I think we got we're over time a little bit, but I do want to take an opportunity. Trent and Brittany, where everybody knows Nick, where we can find Nick. It's Nick Spanos on Twitter, right? You can always follow Nick. But Trent, Brittany, where are we going to take action? Where am I following you, Trent? Where can I keep up to date? What's your call to action item for us? And Brittany, right after that, if you wouldn't mind.
I put my email in there, Trent@Accelerate2020. You guys can reach me 24/7.
Accelerate, how do you spell that?
Alpha Charlie Echo Lima Echo Victor Alpha Tango Echo 2020.com. But it's on there. Shoot me an email. I'd love to plug you in. I don't do much of the NSA identity theft and data theft stuff. Brittany can tell you all about that. I try to stay off the inner tube as much as possible. But if you guys do need to reach me, please go ahead and shoot me an email. I'd love to converse, plug you in. And also the Blockchain Center. I talk to Spanos almost daily, so we'd love to help if any of you guys have a need for anything. And I'm based out of Austin. I live out of a suitcase, so I'm always traveling. I'm at the Greenbrier Hotel here in West Virginia right now, about to check out the Washington, D.C. bunker built for continuity of government and find my bed in case shit hits the fan. But please reach out, and we'd love to, empower you guys and help anyone who's on a path to help us change the laws and make the world a better place.
Absolutely. I hear. And so I pasted my email and also the website for our blockchain committee in Wyoming Congress. Definitely check that out. Even if you don't normally geek out on law, it's really cool to actually watch legislators that know as much about blockchain as the people who build blockchain companies. It's so cool. But yeah, Brittany.Kaiser@digitalasset.org. If you're on social media, or as Trent calls it, NSA, data collection platforms, I'm at Own Your Data or at Own Your Data Now on everything. So you will be able to find me and feel free to reach out anytime. Always happy to help or help you get involved in some of this stuff if you have the interest. So the more the merrier, all hands on deck. See you out there.
And guys, before Brock gets on, I was there. He was the first presidential candidate to receive a vote on the blockchain using the vote system from Utah. Brittany was there too, I believe, and he can talk more about the importance of that and what it means and the implications. But
Brock for president.
Yeah, Brock is president, and he can get y'all plugged into all of this too. And Brock.vote for him and his website if you have any questions about policy or how you get involved.
All right, guys, take care.
Yeah, I want to thank you guys for coming on short notice. It was awesome. Different perspective for sure from my world, and I think it's really important what everybody's doing here. I'll say that time and time again. God bless you all for doing that, and thankfully it's you guys and not me. I would definitely I'd be in up the creek without a paddle, so to say. So I appreciate it. Thank you guys so much for coming on. Nick, appreciate you hopping in here too. I know you got a lot of experience in this, so thank you for the insight.
God bless, guys. Merry Christmas.
Thanks, guys.